Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing more of the Banished seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which after we select our starting hand, our entire deck gets banished. That fundamentally changes which cards we want to include in our deck, and today we are playing an absolutely ridiculous meme deck. So, let's go give it a look. So today we'll be playing a Skellige Ursine ritual deck that is technically very good at countering the meta Nilfgaard decks, but is not the most reliable deck to run, so for that reason is perhaps a little more of a meme. It is all built around damaging our own cards and even our opponent's cards substantially, using things like, in particular, Artis, because when he's on the board in the range row, not only do we damage every card that we play by half its power, our opponent's cards also get damaged by half their power, and if our opponent's key to success is having a bunch of high base power cards like Tibor and Imperial Golem, which is the most common set of cards in the most common deck that people run in this, then, well, that is going to be a huge factor whenever we are using him against those types of decks. Not only do we weaken our opponent's cards though, but we can actually benefit from receiving that damage if we use cards like Olaf, who, with that order ability, get boosted based on how much damage they've taken, or in the case of Olgierd Immortal and Primordial Dao, just don't take damage from Artis. Then we also have stuff like the Vildkaarl that, once it gets damaged enough, transforms into a extremely high base power card with the Champion of Svalblod. We also have cards like Blueboy, who, whenever they take damage, deal damage to our opponents. And we also have, on the smaller scale, things like the Tuirseach Veteran, which will just heal itself up to an 8 when it gets hit by Artis. And somewhat similarly, the Svalblod Fanatic will transform into a 6 base power card, rather than getting dropped down to a 2 from Artis, so we benefit from playing this with Artis as well. And even the Drummond Berserker certainly works by itself, because it does eventually damage itself until it transforms into a Bear Abomination, but if you have Artis on the board, it just immediately transforms, and that's also a way to work around the self-damage. So that's all useful. Technically, we also have stuff like the Drakkar, which does benefit from the self-damage, but more likely than not, this is a card you're just going to end up mulliganing. We do also have the Drummond Queensguard, which, once it has been damaged, can spawn a copy of itself, and so the initial copy will get damaged by Artis, so you can set up that Berserk, and then the subsequent copies that get spawned in, just use your leader ability to drop that down to Berserk 3, so you can continue to create more of those. And if you don't get Artis, you do still have the option of using the Bear Witcher Quartermaster for a little bit more self-damage, and of course, your leader ability as well. Other than that, we have a little bit of other sources of damage for our opponents, with things like the Craite Longship, and also with Herkja. So in general, you might want to play these in round 1 or round 2, and then save Artis for ideally a long round 3, especially because the Longship and Herkja don't really synergize with Artis, so, you know, save all of your cards that benefit from the damage and play those with Artis, whereas these guys can go in a separate round. And then we also have Junod, who either when set up by the damage from Herkja, damage from the Longship, or Artis, can destroy one of your opponent's cards, and again, the idea there is you're hopefully going to target your opponent's highest base power card. Then, outside of that, we have Champion's Charge, which, assuming we have damaged a lot of our opponent's cards, can outright remove a card, or, if we haven't gotten to Bloodthirst 3, deal 5 damage. And then, beyond that, we also have a little ace up our sleeves, that being Magic Compass, which, because we are not going to have any cards in our deck ever, we are always going to be able to trigger that less than 3 cards in our deck condition, which means we can create any legendary Skellige card that is not in our starting deck. We do have several in our starting deck, of course, but there are still many options. And really the only limitation here is your creativity. And that's all there is to it here. It is built almost entirely around Artis, and that is why, of course, this deck is not the most consistent in the world, because you really want to have Artis in your hand, and if you don't get him in your starting hand, he's getting banished with the rest of your deck. So yes, you still have the self-damage from your leader ability and from the Bear Witcher Quartermaster, so when it works, it is a great way to counter the meta decks, especially Nilfgaard. So let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against Nilfgaard here, and we'll go first. Alright, and we have Artis, which is in many ways our most important card to help set up all of our self-damage here with things like Svalblod Fanatic, And Veteran, and to a lesser extent Blueboy. We actually don't have that many things that synergize with it. So I think we might even dump... I mean, it's nice to have the Flaminica to help heal stuff, but I think we'll dump you and get, yeah, more things that actually benefit from that self-damage. Like Olaf. That's definitely a big pickup. Alright, I think we'll leave it at this. I mean, you could maybe try to get something better than... Yeah, we'll try to get something better than that. Okay, Herkja, I mean, is not bad by herself. So maybe what we'll do here is, especially since we're on blue coin, we'll go for Herkja and probably Herkja alone. And granted, I actually wanted this to be the Lamp Djinn, because having a tall unit like this is an invitation for your opponent to destroy this card, because there is a lot of tall removal in this event. So that may be the result here. And if that does happen, we're going to have to reevaluate your strategy a little bit. But if they don't immediately answer Herkja, then we're probably going to pass. Alright, they're just going to give us this. So we'll take it. We'll take the round 1 win. And that means we can either push in round 2 or keep things short in round 2, dry pass even, and get a long round 3. And I think we wait for the long round 3 so that we have the maximum amount of time to benefit from Artis. And we do, I believe, yeah, have Covenant of Steel to help protect him. So even if they do have some pure removal with something like, say, Vilgeforce, which is extremely common, arguably the best card in this event for Nilfgaard, should still be relatively safe from that. So let's pass here, force them to play a card. It's Sheilard and a Will. That backfired. That backfired on them. Alright, so now it's the Sergeant first. I think we'll probably go first with Covenant of Steel and then actually Olaf after that and then Artis, because at this point I'm pretty sure with 1 point Olaf would get destroyed by Artis, which is not what we want to do when otherwise this is amazing setup here. So we're going to go range row, because obviously Artis needs to be in the range row. So in anticipation of that, we put you here. And we'll have to see. I mean, we like this defender to stick around so that Artis is safe. Okay, they're going to lock it and create a copy of it with their leader ability now. They're going to destroy it with Vanamar is the next question, or is it going to stick around? Okay, I think we can live with that. And so now we sneak in Olaf, and hoping they don't have something like freeze in here, because we still need a turn before we can activate that. Alright, Toussaint Knight Errant will deal some damage to our defender. And now we break out Artis. And let's put him here so that even if they do have treason, they still won't be able to hit him with it. And obviously he's not going to play anything from our deck because our deck doesn't exist, but the passive ability alone is more than sufficient. And I'm debating whether we want to... We probably should use this. I mean, there's a chance they have something like Villain Trettenmirth that could still destroy Olaf, even with the defender here, but we'll do it. Alright, Cadaverin for another copy of our defender. Now we would like to not see another round of poison, but they might have it. Then, of course, the question becomes, do they have enough control after that to still deal with Artis? We could break out the Flaminica, and that would help heal Covenant of Steel, and we might want to do that at this point. I think we might as well. And once again, let's hide you a little bit on this side. Yes, you're going to hit, and you can't heal yourself, unfortunately. But you will heal Covenant of Steel. Okay, I mean, they're just creating non-stop copies of Covenant of Steel. And, I mean, we can create, or we can destroy one of the ones that's damaged with Junod. So, right now, that is our best and only real target for Junod, but that'll be one of our last plays. So, let's now probably go for, I think we might even want to go Blueboy. That way we can damage him by 1 with our leader ability, heal him back up with the Flaminica, and just sustain that for as long as possible. So he gets hit and deals damage. And we can continue to do that. We obviously don't want to kill him right now. We'd like for the Flaminica to heal him a little bit first. Alright, Ivar can swap power with our defender. which granted we just healed, but now we're going to damage Ivar anyway, so it's not a huge deal, and we're going to continue to heal you, so still, again, not a huge deal. So we have a couple of veterans. I think we're going to play both of them and finish with you two, and that gives us the most time possible to figure out who the best target will be. So I think we're just hiding everyone behind the defender. I don't think they're going to have anything like, I mean, even if they have something like Ursine, it's not really a problem, and if they have an Igni, then it's already going to get rid of Olaf, and playing more cards in this row is not going to change that. So let's do this. You get damage, but that heals you up. And now we can hit Blueboy at least one more time. And heal everybody again. Alright, Tourney Shalmar has a big boost, but we damage it with Artis, and they realize there's no way they can catch us. We didn't even use our finishers, and we still took the win. Alright, so going up against Nilfgaard here. And we'll go first. Alright, so against Nilfgaard specifically, I don't like to have Olgierd all that much, because if they had Vildkaarl forts, then it's going to be a huge play for them. So let's get rid of you. I do love Magic Compass. That gives us a lot of flexibility. We need some self-damage and cards that like to be damaged. And the best way to do that self-damage is with Artis. We don't have him right now. So I think we dump the Fanatic, and probably the Drakkar as well. And we get Artis. Perfect. Okay. So I think for round one, we want to try to play something that does not necessarily synergize with Artis. And there's possibly only 2 cards we have that fit that description. Those being the Longship and Junod. Those are big cards, but let's break you out and let's use Magic Lamp. That might be the only thing we play in this round. Okay, they will immediately seize the Longship, but hey, that means their leader ability is gone, so that is useful. How much? They're Enslave 6. Okay, so they have a lot of tactics. Alright, so that was enough for them to catch us. They did sacrifice the leader ability to do so. As I was saying, Junod is the other card that does not necessarily... I mean, yes, when they get damaged, obviously it does set up Junod, but if they're getting damaged by a lot from Artis, then the Junod value is just not as good, whereas if we just poke them with the Longship on a really tall card, then Junod is amazing. So what would we like to go for here? I mean, the Dao is still functional with Artis, but it is good even without him, so maybe we go that route. Obviously, Magic Compass could do any of a number of things for us, but I'd like to keep that flexibility for later, so I think we will Point Slam here. And won't take the damage from the Longship, given how we had the shield. Alright, it's Imperial Diplomacy, which may not be enough here. Depends what they get. I mean, they are going to get boosts on that Warcrier, unfortunately. Which means they've just barely overtaken us. I think what we might do is we might even go Blueboy here. It'll take 1 damage from the Longship, which is kind of useful, because that means they'll take damage, and then we can probably span some leader ability charges, because since we have Artis, that is going to be sufficient damage to set up most of our other stuff. Oh, also, I didn't even see the Berserker over here, but this doesn't need Artis either. I mean, he does immediately transform in that case, but this is another source of damage that we can use as well, which could set up Junod, even though we've lost the Longship here. I mean, they still don't have any tall units, really. So, I think maybe we'll just go this route for now. We're going to hit it once, which means we're only going to get 1 turn of damage, and we hope it doesn't hit you. Alright, Coded Weapons. Again, this 1 point boost on the Warcrier is not doing us any favors. I think we'll go Blueboy here, take the damage, and probably use some leader ability charges on him as well. Maybe not all of them, because we could also go with the Quartermaster on the next turn and use some self-damage there. We don't really want this round to go much longer than that, though. Let's see if we can get rid of you. That'd be amazing if we could. There. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Because we want to still have a long round for Artis in round 3. And they will seize somebody. It's Blueboy. which means we are currently tied and on even cards. Unfortunately, they've removed what would have been our preferred self-damage recipient with the Quartermaster. But there's 2, but not 3. I mean, not that they have a particularly tall card, but still. Think we might pass here. And if they want to go a card down to win this round, we'll let them. Sure, it means they'll have last say. But it means if they dry pass in round 2, then we can use the Quartermaster, because that doesn't necessarily synergize with Artis. So I imagine they will play here. Okay, Tourney Joust is certainly sufficient. So they'll win round 1. And they do dry pass, so that means we can just use you as a throwaway here. We don't much need you anymore. And so now what we'll do, although it is somewhat risky here because we do not have our defender, and we know they have some damage with the tactics deck, is we break out Artis, and we won't play anything from our deck because of course our deck is non-existent at the moment, but it will damage every subsequent card that gets played, and we have a veteran that's going to benefit from receiving that damage. And Junod not so much directly, but it will help us to set up his deployability, help us set up Champion's Charge, and Magic Compass. Not sure what we want to do with you. Not sure what we want to do with you, because most of the preferred self-damage recipient legendary cards we have in our starting deck, so we won't be able to get those with Magic Compass. So I say we just begin with the veteran. And leave it at that for now. The self-damage means that we actually heal you, so that's why you work so well with Artis. Okay, Stefan. I think we're just removing you with either of these, really. Or, I mean, we could probably find a legendary card that has enough damage to destroy you, but that feels like that's kind of overkill. I mean, all this is overkill, to be fair, but maybe we'll go Champion's Charge. Alright, Terra Nova, they've given spine to something, right? Blueboy. Ooh. Okay. It's not great, because he will hit us when he takes damage. So, we could destroy either of you with Junod. Not sure. Technically, they can hit themselves with the Fire Scorpion. Not sure they're going to realize that. Terra Nova does have some potential with Assimilate, but I think for the most part, of course, they're a Tactics Enslave deck and not so much an Assimilate deck, so I'm not sure we need to be too concerned about him getting much taller, especially when they only have 2 cards left. So, technically speaking, Blueboy, or even the Fire Scorpion, could make a case for getting rid of that. Junod does still get hit. And then Damien. So now it's Magic Compass, and what do we want to do here? Because we could go Wild Boar the Sea, which is probably the most in terms of just direct points. But we could also go Urnachad and just try to deny them whatever unit they might play next, although at this point they might be thinking about going with a tactic instead. Madman Lugos is sufficient to destroy Damien. We might actually prefer that. That might actually be the best option. And, well, either way, they don't think they can catch us. So they've forfeited. Alright, so going up against Nilfgaard here. And we'll go first. Alright, so we're looking for a combination of self-damage and cards that want to be damaged. And Artis is far and away our best card for damaging ourselves. And we can use Covenant of Steel to help protect him, so I love that. do also love having Olaf be the highest card in our hand, because if our opponent plays Sheilard, which is a very common addition in Nilfgaard decks, then it'll drop him down to a 1, which is helpful, extremely helpful in that case. So we want to try to get as nice of a set of cards that benefit from the damage as possible, and the Quartermaster is not a great fit for that. Honestly, neither is this Longship. Olgierd, I don't love when we have Olaf, because then there's a chance that Olgierd is the one that gets hit with Sheilard, and as I said, really want to make sure that it is Olaf that gets hit like that. So I think what we'll do here is turn 1, we will play Herkja, and we'll use our stratagem, and that is probably the only thing we're going to do in round 1. Even if we pass early, Herkja will still hit our opponent a little bit. But we're hoping that this requires that they play at least 2 cards to catch us, making them go a card down, and since they won't draw cards in between rounds, they'll still be a card down going into round 2. Alright, Yenvo, to steal Herkja, I mean, they don't have a deck, so they're not going to be able to replay her anyway, so it's just a pure removal, and we still have a 5-power Lamp Djinn on the board, so yes, they used one of their best forms of control, and they still need to play another card if they want to catch us here. So I think we'll settle for that. And it's Ciri for carryover. That is unfortunate. So now the question becomes, do they try to push in round 2, or do they try to test us and assume that we can't catch them with 1 card, given how they have an 8-power unit on the board? Well, we can. Rather not have to play Olaf right now, but we kind of have to play Olaf right now. So it means we're still on even cards here going into round 3. Alright, and so what we want to do now is Covenant to Steel, followed immediately thereafter by Artis to get the maximum amount of time, with our opponents getting damaged with every unit that they play, and us benefiting from it, in the case of the Fanatic and Veteran, and that gives us setup for Junod, even if he still takes damage. And then we can heal off that damage with the Flaminica if necessary. So, first you, and of course, Artis is row locked to the range row, so we want to make sure that we put you in the range row. Alright, and is that going to be Purification? Yeah. Alright, so our Defender is no more. But, in that case, we'll just go straight into Artis. Obviously, we will not play anything from our deck, because our deck doesn't have anything in it right now, but that range row passive ability is still strong enough in and of itself that that could be a huge factor for round 3. They're going to lock Artis, which is kind of strange, because, I mean, sure, you lock ours, but yours is still doing that same thing. Unless you're about to destroy your own Artis. I'm not really sure what your plan is here. You'll destroy ours. Still doesn't change the fact that our deck is structured around having Artis on the board and yours is not. So now I think we'll just start playing the cards that benefit from the self-damage. And starting with the Queensguard, this is the most time-sensitive, because the earlier we play you, the more time we have to create additional copies of you. And the initial one gets damaged. The subsequent ones will not get damaged by Artis, because they'll get spawned, not played, and that's where our leader ability will probably come in. Eskel. 6 base power. So I think you might end up being our Champion's Charge target, which means just 1 more turn before you get up to base power, so we can still wait a little bit longer. So let's do this. And then we can actually play the Flaminica here, because now that you have used your order ability, we can actually heal you up, and we don't care about that. That gives us more points. There's no downside. And then we'll use our order ability on the same turn that we're planning to use that... Or we'll use our leader ability on the same turn we're planning to use the order ability, and that means you'll still be damaged when we need you to be damaged. Unfortunately, the Flaminica cannot heal herself. Alright, Ox, well, it's probably gonna... Are they gonna go for Flaminica, or... Okay. Okay, I think that arguably might have been the worst option for them, because this is gonna continue to become a problem for them. And so now it's a question of, do you Champion's Charge, remove Eskel? I mean, we technically have Bloodthirst 3 so we can destroy anything. We definitely want to keep Artis on the board. But... and also, Junod, destroy you. I think we'll go Junod. Tell you the truth. I think we'll do that. So Junod does get damaged as well. So that's a little bit of a downside. Alright, Cadaverin, what are they gonna... probably go, yeah, Flaminica, that makes sense. So, ooh, and that's gonna make it much harder for Champion's Charge. So I think you're what, 6 base power? Next turn, whatever unit they play is gonna get damaged by their Artis. You're still not gonna be healed up fully. So they should have 3 damaged cards, which means Champion's Charge is sufficient to take you out. So I think that's next turn. But now we go Fanatic, who benefits from the damage because that'll automatically convert you. Then we hit you, so we can spawn in another copy. And this is why we wanted to hopefully have this Flaminica remain unlocked so that these ones that have already used their order abilities can get healed up. Because it's worth a few points. Would have been worth a few points at this stage in the match. Okay. We do not have anything big enough, nor will we ever have anything big enough for Ache to go after. So that's not an issue. But they do have 3 damaged cards. So let's get rid of the Flaminica so they can stop healing, because that is not something we want to see them do. So this is the benefit of going wide like this, spawning in a bunch of cards rather than having 1 or 2 really high-powered cards, is things like Ache are significantly less effective. In this case, just flat out don't work. Rico at 6 is okay, but he's still going to get damaged. And so this is going to be our last turn here. So we can go here, spawn in another copy of you, and might as well just use this last charge on Covenant to Seal because it has armor. That'll spawn in the Bear Abomination, and then we go with the Tuirseach Veteran because that will get healed up when it takes the damage. And that means we have a 30-point lead here, so it would be pretty difficult for them to catch us with this last card, and probably even mathematically impossible, and so they will forfeit. Alright, so going up against Nilfgaard here, and we'll go first. Alright, and let's see, so we have Olgierd, who is a good point slam for us. Junod, good form of removal, we can get a little bit of damage to go along with him. The Queensguard, great with our leader ability. And do we have enough self-damage to set up all these self-damaging cards? I'm not sure that we do. So let's maybe get rid of you. Magic Compass is fantastic. But we still are in need of some more setup here. And yeah, a lot of cards that want self-damage. Not a lot of ways to make that happen, though. So I think we want to go for a short round here, in which perhaps we just use Stratagem and play a card and leave it at that and only that. What is our best option for a short round? I mean, it would be Olaf for pure point slam. Not really sure I want to do that. Or Olgierd, but we can't use our tactical advantage on him. I think it is Olaf. And this is kind of begging for tall removal here. And, okay, well, fortunately we hit got one of our biggest cards out there, and it can still get Olgierd with Sheilard. Oh. I don't know about that. I know they changed him a little while back, but I think I still disagree with the wording and the effect in that case. That seems pretty inconsistent. It is still enough points for us at the moment, though. They would need to put up a lot here to catch us with just 1 card, but if they want to go tall removal, they certainly could. And they do. I mean, though, that's arguably the best card in their entire deck, so at least they commit that. Alright, but do they push here? They played 1 more card than us. They're going for the Phoenix for the carryover. And that might be the only thing they opt to play. Means we are looking for a 5 or better, which means the Veteran fits in nicely there. And maybe our go-to. Just hoping they were going to dry pass and then we could just get rid of our 1-point Olgierd, but doesn't seem as though we can do that. Okay, Letho for another Phoenix for more carryover. Alright. That's a little tougher to match. Now we need to get up to 5 more points. Which... I'd rather not go with Vildkaarl, I suppose. It's a 5-point body now. It has some potential longer term if this round does continue to go on. Alright, they're going to lock it though, I assume. Yep. And fortunately for us, though, that's not worth many points, so we can go for something a little smaller here, and maybe we can sneak in our Longship, as if this round continues to go on, then of course we want to make sure we don't get stuck playing one of our early round cards at the very end. And the Longship would also help to set up Junod. So they might even use leader really on it. Yeah, they will. It's a decent option. It's understandable. Of course, we actually want self-damage. That's the wrong idea. It is the wrong idea. Okay, so... in which case, what is our preferred way to mess with them? Damage with Blueboy, self-damage with... I mean, also self-damage for you. We only have self-damage from our leader ability, really. Would destroy Kahir with you, but might there be better options for you later on? Perhaps. Perhaps. So... a lot of armor, so I'm not sure we want to go Blueboy, to tell you the truth. I think we go Queensguard here. And that actually, I mean, tempo-wise is not enough, but the Longship bails us out here, sets up this initial copy. So they will pass now, and that's kind of understandable. So, if we spawn you in, that means we just need 2 more points here. So, it's the most efficient way to make that happen. It's almost enough, but not quite. I mean, if we were to use a bunch of charges, we could hit your Berserk 3. It's going to make it harder to set up Blueboy. That might be the plan. Because that is enough. We still have a few charges remaining of that, which we'll be saving for Blueboy. Alright, so going into round 3 on even cards here in that case. They have a lot of carryover, though, with those double Phoenixes. So I think now the question is, what is the best use of Magic Compass here? We could do something like Urnachad to shut down some of their cards, but that won't stop them for that long, since we don't have a Sucrus to go along with him and sustain that Urnachad indefinitely. Melusine could help us with some self-damage. I mean, either way, I think this is probably what we're playing first. Let's just take a closer look at what our options are. I mean, or we could have used Camby. Waiting for Camby might have actually been the play, and that would have been kind of hilarious. But I think we go... I think it might be Melusine. I think it is. Because that helps us at least with the self-damage on Blueboy. A sustained source of self-damage on Blueboy. No, we don't have Cultists, so we won't be able to... Yeah, I mean, it might have a source of block on Melusine, which would be unfortunate. But we're mostly just looking to set this up. And, I mean, technically we'd like to wait on this order ability to see where you play more cards before we use it. Well, we know you're going to get hit by Blueboy, which means, I mean, that is a potential target for Junod, but it's obviously not a great one yet. Okay, Cutthroat for... they really just purifying so they could get bleed on Melusine? That seems a little bit odd. But, alright, now, granted, not exactly great options for either of you. They're presumably holding out with their big cards here still in hand. So, preference in terms of which one we'd like to use here. We cannot guarantee that Blueboy will hit a card that we really want to hit with Junod. I think he's a little harder to set up, so I think we use him. Alright, so Mangonel, which is going to have to be the recipient of your rupture. So we do that. That will destroy you. And, I mean, we could use Melusine's order ability, but it deals 2 damage to her, and you're already going to get destroyed. You'll get hit by Blueboy, and technically speaking, I mean, we could hit Blueboy with self-damage to deal more damage to them. We already have enough damage to kill everything but you, so it's not actually that beneficial, although it does eventually get out the Bear Abomination, so I suppose we still do it. Like, now you're dead already anyway, but I guess we'll do it just to get you out here. Alright, so now let's see. They obviously have the 2 Phoenix flips that they're going to do, but what is this last card that they've been waiting to play? Toussaint Knight Errant, yeah, it's going to get the extra damage from hitting a big card, but it is not enough for them. We will hold on for the win. Alright, so going up against Nilfgaard here, and we'll go first. Alright, and we draw into Artis, which is probably the single most important card in our deck by a humongous margin, because he gives us the automatic setup for self-damage. And we have some cards that like to be damaged, like Olaf, Vildkaarl, Blueboy to a lesser extent, at least when it comes to how Artis does it in one big chunk. Drakkar a little bit, and same with Queensguard, we might be able to do a little bit better than that. But we also can protect Artis with the Covenant of Steel. I like that. We can heal up the cards that get damaged if necessary with the Flaminica. Pretty much just a matter of can we do better with cards that benefit more from self-damage. I think the Veteran is slightly better at that. So maybe we stick with this. And it is particularly important that we have Artis, because otherwise Lockdown could get rid of our best source, or one of our other best sources of self-damage outside of Artis. We are on blue coin here, so I think we're probably looking to play something turn 1 and perhaps turn 1 only. Although admittedly that's a little tough to say what we'd like that to be. It might even be the Queensguard, because I assume they're going to use this. They'd like to use that in round 3, I imagine. Which is the round that we're expecting to go the longest. So we might, if round 1, for whatever reason, goes longer, we might want to use these aggressively on the Queensguard. I mean, granted, for the Queensguard, we pretty much just want to use 1 charge per turn. But Sheilard is going to hit Olaf and backfire on them big time. Technically speaking, it does mean now that we need to play Olaf before we play Artis. Otherwise, I believe Artis will still destroy Olaf. But, I mean, it's certainly still worth it. That is a very powerful Olaf now, and a card that we technically could play right now, but with no defender protecting it, it is certainly a bit vulnerable. So the other thing is, Blueboy's not an amazing option for our leader ability, because, or rather, he is a good option for our leader ability. He's not a great combination with Artis, because this is one big chunk of self-damage, and Blueboy likes to be hit in small little bits and pieces. So maybe we use him here, and we just go 1 round on Queensguard, spawn in another one, and then we just go crazy on Blueboy. And maybe we'll leave it at that, because that is very solid value, very good tempo in round 1, and, you know, if we leave just like 1 charge of our leader ability, it means they'll still go lockdown and they won't get a lot out of that. But, okay, I mean, if you really want to make a Queensguard, then we'll just stop damaging you at this point. So I think this is probably where we draw the line and say, if you want to put up 13 points in 1 turn with something like Tibor, then so be it. But unless you're going to commit something like that, you are not going to catch us in time. And so they'll give us the round 1 win on even cards. And for that reason, I think what we'll do here is we'll try pass and force them to go a card down and give us double last say in round 3, which is pretty sweet, especially if we have Magic Compass, because there is a nifty play we can potentially use on them, but I am getting ahead of myself. So we'll see. All right, it's the Snack. Oh, very clever. Very clever. All right, so that Snack may end up coming out of our graveyard in the middle of this round. It likely will. Starting with the Tortoise, I actually would expect them to immediately use their leader ability. So the tricky thing that I started to say before is that we've already used some charges from our leader ability, so yeah, they weren't going to get that much value out of shutting down the rest of it, but at the same time, if we'd used all of our charges, then that would mean, rather than shutting it down, they'd spawn into operatives, so I think by having 1 or 2 charges left, that was the best possible scenario there. But now I think we begin with the Covenant of Steel to protect initially Olaf, and then after that Artis, to maximize the amount of time we have with him. Because as we were saying, technically speaking, I think we do still need to play Olaf before we play Artis, otherwise the damage from Artis on Olaf would destroy him. Okay, Purification, alright, fair enough. Our defender is no longer a defender. You got us. So, in that case, we just need to take our chances here. No way around it. And Vildkaarl they'll use to get rid of Olaf. Honestly, would have been an amazing card, yes, but that was arguably their single best card because it can remove any unit. And so for them to get rid of that when we were about to play Artis, now should make Artis considerably safer. So I do like that. Obviously, we won't play anything from our deck because our deck is non-existent, but the self-damage is still quite substantial. Alright, and it's Anna Henrietta for... Really? I'm not sure you're going to benefit all that much from self-damage, but if you insist. Alright, and then... So now you would heal yourself, you would transform yourself, and you would just deal damage. I mean, that's not a bad card for us to go after, but there could still be bigger options later. Granted, they're going to get hit by Artis, so maybe not. Tell you what, we'll go with you first, because you will get damage and you won't heal it off, which means playing the Flaminica next turn gives us as much time as possible to heal you up. Because you need it, but these guys don't. Okay, Bribery, I'm curious what they get here. There are some good combinations when combined with Artis, for sure. They end up getting the Flaminica, which, I mean, yeah, it's not terrible. She can't heal herself, for what it's worth, but she will heal that Tortoise, unfortunately. So... And that did actually give us a boost on Covenant of Steel as well. So now, why don't we play the Flaminica? So she, once again, can't heal herself, but she can heal you. There goes the snack. Alright, and it's Imperial Golem, which is a big point slam. And that would have been the preferred, either that or Tibor would have been the preferred target for you. The thing is that since you're getting hit by Artis, you're just a 6 now. So it's actually not as big of a deal. And, well, the Flaminica actually made pretty good use out of their leader ability there. So, on this occasion, probably should have played Vildkaarl in the previous turn, to tell you the truth, because what I was alluding to before was we could go Magic Compass into the Cambi, and in doing so, discard this last card for them, preventing them from taking their last turn, which is, you know, if they're saving one big card, then that'd be a nice way to shut them down. On the other hand, our best card is the rightmost card, and that's what Cambi discards, so we'd be able to finish with the Veteran, but... I mean, that technically might still be... it's close with this healing here from the Flaminica. I mean, I kind of feel like we have to. The math is perhaps not going to work in our favor here. Also, this should have been in that row. That might be a difference maker there. If we lose by 2 points, then, oh, man. Oh, man. Well, I think we might. Oh, we tied. And it's all because I played Cambi in the wrong row. So there's a look at a ridiculous Skellige self-damage deck for the new Banished seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button and leave a comment down below letting me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions you'd like us to experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.